Hi guys, I'm Vanessa James, welcoming you back to another round of Café Mocha2go, and I am thrilled to welcome our next guest. She has been at the grassroots level all around the country for the last decade, really, that I've known of LaTosha Brown. I've seen her really putting in the work behind the scenes, getting people and mobilizing the masses to get them to the polls. So I'm excited to have you back on, Mrs. LaTosha Brown, co-founder of Black Voters Matter. Tell us what's going on and where you're at. I hear you're on a bus tour.
I am with my work partner and co-founder, Cliff Albright. We are both on the Blackest Bus in America. We just left Philadelphia, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and Pittsburgh and Ohio. We're going to 11 states all around the nation to connect with organizations that are on the front lines doing work. We want to get this vote out, because this is a critical election. And if anybody saw the debate last night, they really understand how critical and important this election is.
Absolutely, absolutely. So let's just dive in. What are your thoughts on last night's debate? I mean, I walked away from it, LaTosha, and thought, if you are undecided at this point and have not decided that you are going to take your behind to vote and do it early, I don't know what will, because I think what we saw last night was a complete lack of stability from one candidate and another one that was just trying to get a word in.
I mean, it was awful. Out of all of the debate, I won't recap what I think. I have all kinds of thoughts about the debate. The fact that there were two white men and a white male moderator in itself is disturbing to me. At the end of the day, that is so not reflective of America. That's not reflective of the electorate. That's just not reflective. But that's where we find ourselves, which is why I know we need to be engaged in this process. But I think the thing that stuck out to me out of everything that was said, I mean, Trump is going to be Trump. If we don't know Trump is a liar by now, if we don't know that he is a racist by now, the one line last night to say for the Proud Boys to stand back and stand by. I don't need to hear anything else. Everything else is secondary to that. This is a white nationalist, white supremacist group that has been categorized in that way by the FBI. So here is where the FBI has said this is a white nationalist, dangerous, racist, white supremacist group. And so the president of these United States would do a call by and say to stand by for what? To terrorize and traumatize Black communities and communities of color. The bottom line is, if we don't remember anything from last night, that one statement is enough, should get us fired up and teed up enough that we go out and vote. We cannot give an inch of ground to those people who have terrorized us, devastated our communities, burned crosses in our yards, hung our people. We can't give them an inch of power in this country. And whoever aligns themselves with them, that we also have to see that they're an enemy and that they will literally use whatever means necessary, even if that means terrorizing and traumatizing our people.
Absolutely. When I saw that I was going to have a chance to talk with you today, I wanted to really dive into how long you've been doing this work and what do people Black and brown people who are going to the polls, because you are on the front lines and really get to see what things are like behind the scenes in terms of voting and also voter suppression. What do they need to know and be aware of when they do go to vote all around the country in the coming weeks?
Thank you for that question. The bottom line is I have been doing this work for 25 years, ever since I was 2 years old.
Wow.
The bottom line, I have been doing this work for over 25 years. I started as a young woman organizer with an organization. Now that I'm actually on the member of the board called the National Coalition on Black Civic Participation. I was one of the original advisors for the Black Youth Vote and started as a young Black woman. And so over the last 25 years, every aspect of voter suppression, including being victimized by it as a candidate and both as a voter, I could do a whole book or books about voter suppression. And how it shows up in our community. And that's part of the reason why I've dedicated a substantial amount of my life around really pushing and strengthening democracy and ending voter suppression, because it is alive. It's not well, but it is alive and strong and growing in this country. And so the work over the last 2.5 decades has really been centered around how do we have Black people not just participate in the election, but build power. Right. Oftentimes the conversation about voting is about how we participate, when in fact it's a greater conversation. It is around how voting is a leverage of power, right. How we can literally reduce the harm, to keep people who want to seek and do us harm, how we keep them from getting more power, how we literally limit to make sure that there's resources that are and priorities to our community. Right. You get people's attention when you can take them out, right? And Absolutely. While we can move people out of office that don't deserve to be there and put people in office that are more reflective, that come of our community experience, and also having a commitment to our community. And so part of the work that I've been doing, people see it in the context of voting, but it's been far more about voting. It is, I want to see a world and a nation where Black people are thriving, that we're getting paid for the work that we do, that we have adequate access and equity to health care, that our children are going to quality schools, that we're getting the resources that we need to get, that our businesses, even in this last election, even in this last, cycle around COVID-19, sure. While President Trump talked about how much he did, the platinum plan for Black folks, well, why he didn't pull out the platinum plan during the stimulus package? Because 80% of Black businesses did not receive a dime. Right. Of the billions of dollars that they gave out to millions of dollars to corporations and millions of dollars to his friends, 80% of Black businesses did not get a dime. So we've got to keep our eyes on the prize and be and mindful of not just we falling for the okie doke. You can't just name something the platinum plan or the diamond, whatever. No, you got to show the receipts. Where are the receipts? The bottom line is our community has not gotten its fair share of resources. We have not gotten our fair share of what we need in our community to move forward. And in order to do that, we have to use every single tool that is available to us to build power. And voting is one of those tools. And we've got, in less than 35 days, we have an opportunity to send a strong message that when you mess with our community, we're going to hold you accountable, that we're literally moving forward and we're not leaving any power on the table.
So LaTosha, let's talk about the people that say, well, LaTosha, but Biden's not perfect. I don't like him. He wasn't my first choice. Talk to us and educate those who are still, for whatever reason, maybe on the sidelines about not just how important the presidential election is, which is, what I've been really trying to educate people on. But when you stay home, you also stay home for all those down ballot elections that affect you locally on a day-to-day basis. Your city commissioners, your mayors, the judges that we see, really set the tone for the laws in this country. So talk to us about that in terms of just people that may be on the sidelines that still are hesitant about voting.
So let me be honest, Biden wasn't my first choice, right? And others. So, but at the end of the day, this is bigger than Biden. Right. This is so beyond Biden and Trump. Like fundamentally what we are up against right now is we're up against fascism. Fundamentally what we're up against is somebody's going to be decided. This is about power. Right. And someone is going to win. Right. And if that person is to win, then I have to make a tactical choice of which candidate is going to, one, bring the least amount of harm to my community, right. Which candidate can at the very least have some alignment with the agenda that is going to look out for my community, and three, what choice do I make to make sure that, like, not even just those that seek to do us harm, which is greater than Trump, right. Those that seek to do us harm, that we stop them. There has to be consequences. Yeah. This man had a campaign that he put 3.2 Black people on a deterrence list, that they intentionally created a campaign to deter us from voting. Just on GP, he needs to feel a consequence for that, right? Yeah. We've got to hold folks at consequences. It's easy for us to talk, have the opinions around the political pundits and saying what this one believes and this believes, but there's a whole nother thing that when part of what happens and why this continues in our community is that we're not holding people accountable. Right. We have to hold those folks accountable that seek to harm our community and have the audacity to openly align themselves with white supremacists. You got to pay a price. And so when I think about that, then I think that there's 3 points. I think there's the first point around, we're talking about power because a choice is going to be made. I think the second point around consequences, accountability. And then the third point is something I just say simply, that any decision, I don't know how other people are, but any decision that's going to be made about LaTosha Brown, LaTosha Brown need to be a part of that decision. Now, maybe other folks got some, maybe they're okay with other people making decisions about them, but I'm not.
No, ma'am.
I'm going to do everything I can to make sure that I have some input in the processes where decisions are being made by my life day in and day out. So
absolutely, how clean your water is.
That's right.
The roadways, the construction,
how resources are divided.
Everything.
Everything. And so fundamentally, we got to start looking at this beyond this conversation about participation. This is about power. And because we're not having this conversation about power, people are getting all discombobulated about what this is about. This ain't about these candidates. This is about the concentration of a power base that seeks to marginalize and impact communities of color. We got to see it for what it is, call it out, and do everything in our power to really be able to get rid of those folks. The bottom line is, for me, I'm not leaving any power on the table. Sometimes, unfortunately, we have these choices that we don't have the ideal choice. But I don't know about anybody else, but it's been rare in my life. I can count if I can come up with any where I've had the perfect choice, that I've had the perfect candidates. It is a tactical strategy. It is make a choice because a choice is going to be made. We've got to literally use our agency and our power to impact that choice at the very least so that we can provide some protection to our community while we do this and while we seek to build better and stronger and more equitable institutions.
Absolutely. 200% in alignment with you. And just a quick touch on that unchecked power. Look at Mitch McConnell right now, completely unchecked.
And there's no consequences. We've got to give consequences, not just on the presidential election, as you said, all down the ballot. There are Senate seats that are coming in. There are local races that people are looking at. We've got to go all down the ballot. We have to hold people accountable if we want to have this conversation. And I'm the first one to say, even though the majority of my adult life has been dedicated towards getting people to vote, I don't believe that voting is a panacea. It's the end all and be all. I don't believe that all problems going to be solved with voting. I don't. But I certainly believe that it is a leverage of power. We got to get beyond around. We don't have the perfect candidate. We have to get beyond the sound bites that Trump is throwing out around platinum plan and all of which is actually disrespectful. And we've got to really zone in on what is going to bring the greatest amount of protection to our community and how do we hold folks accountable who have been working every single day to marginalize our voices, and to not give resources to our community, but to their friends and their cronies.
Absolutely.